Frankie from Flatbush rides the Brooklyn line. Got a swagger sharp like a vintage wine. Everybody knows his name from porch to stoop. Hustle and dreams in every loop. In the park he struts, hits the handball wall. Echoes hear the stories when the shadows fall. Got 1,000 tales and a confident grin. On the streets of Flatbush where legends begin. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near. He's got the rhythm, everybody cheers. Corner talks and sidewalk chalks his fame. In the Flatbush breeze you'll hear his name. Underneath the subway hum, the magic's real. Frankie's moves got that electric feel. From Atlantic Avenue to the urban hill, Flatbush Frankie's giving you a thrill. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Bodega lights flicker when Frankie's near, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go. Frankie from Flatbush got the city glow, lighting up the borough with his every show. He's the heart of Brooklyn, never laying low. Frankie from Flatbush, always on the go.
All right, it's time for another Coffee with Frankie. It is April the 27th, 2025, 1002 hours on the East Coast of America. This is the coffee. I am the Frankie. Please let me know in the chat if you can see and hear me okay. Everything looks okay on my end. But please let me know, because as we know on this channel, we often have problemos. We got problemos with our equipmentenos. And so let me know if you can hear me okay. Okay, there we go. We got the bell as well. Phil says audio visual 100%. We're going to take a look at our roster today. Where does our roster stand after the draft, after the UDFA period, after everything? Where does our roster stand right now, and how does it compare to the rest of our competitors in the AFC East? We'll take a look at that today. We'll also take a look at Dick Chimney's latest column. Has some decent tidbits in it, though mostly not a great column, let's be honest. Let's also take a look at something our head coach said. He said, don't worry about Arian Smith's dropping problems, because Jameson Williams had the same problems. And he worked on it. Look what happened to him. But is that actually true? We'll take a look at that. But first, let's take a look at who's in the chat. Arlen Abraham is here. Phil Adams from the east side of the pond. The pond he's talking about is the Atlantic Ocean. That's quite a big pond. The Swamp Ranger is here. He likes Kiko Moango. Well, I wouldn't say he's going to replace Quincy, and I wouldn't say he's going to be a younger version of anyone, Swamp Ranger, until he actually plays. So I can see the overconfidence in the prospects is running high already. Joe Mike is here. Would have loved to have the 464-pound DT that the Bucks signed. Yeah, he didn't want to come here, Joe Mike. Clifford is here. Charles is here. Jeff Van. Who's Jeff Van, Charles? I don't know who that is. Jimmy Jets is here. Ding, ding, ding. Good to see Jimmy Jets. Jimmy Jets, we got lots of stuff up for the Inner Circle members, including a copy of the greatest hits of the Whirligig, my literary magazine, and that is quite a banger. So check out the folders, Jimmy Jets. You got some good stuff coming your way. Spin Max, buenos dias. How's the cafe? Cafe con Francisco. The cafe is good, Spin Max. Clifford says, what do you think of Phil Mathis? He's roster fringe. We'll take a look at the roster. You can't count on Phil Mathis for anything. That's for sure. Mo and Lobby, I'm not in the chat. Playing mind games. Harlan likes his chock full of nuts. Chock full of D's nuts, Harlan. It's nothing like a little good coffee in the morning. Frankie, what are your thoughts on his name is Arian Smith, not Adrian Smith. Yes, it was a huge overreach. He's very fast and he drops passes like crazy. Understanding the draft board versus liking players seemed off after round 3. Yeah. So one of the things we're going to talk about, Joe Mike, is the fact that I think I'm going to give Muji a mulligan for this year. I really am. Because and I'm going to watch him very carefully over the next 12 months to see if he fires anybody. Really, when you think about it, when he came in, he really couldn't do a big rearrangement, even if he wanted to, right, of the front office because it was too close to the draft. You can't fire the scouts and all that. Um, so, no, Brady Cook will not give Tyrod a run. Jimmy, come on, let's stop it. Um, so, I'm going to give Muji a mulligan for this year. Now, he made a lot of mistakes and he did not do a good job, and we're going to go over all of those things when you look at the roster, and I explain it to you. But I'm going to give him a mulligan because I'm going to basically say this offseason has been like a C plus, but he's new on the job. He's never been a GM before. First time ever being a general manager. So, we did that. And he didn't have time to get his people in. He hired one person. He had to hire Spielman, and he kept Phil Savage around to try to help him. But this is not his front office. I'm going to give him 12 months to remake the front office. I want to see the pro personnel people fired immediately for what they did, and I'll explain why in a second. For example, and I'm going to give him a mulligan. And then he got punked by Brandon Beane 3 times because of very obvious things. He got punked by an experienced, knows what he's doing general manager. And and it's the same things I've been talking about since they actually happened. I knew this was going to happen. And I said it at the time, and now I'll show you why. When you look at the rosters, it's not even close. So, but I'm going to give him a mulligan. I'm going to say he's going to grow into the job. Let's hope so. He's a young guy. We hired a nice guy to be our general manager, and he got punked 3 times by Brandon Beane. So, but that's what happens. We're the Jets. We're in the ghetto. What we could expect and hope for is growth, and maybe both AG and Muji grow into the job. And by next year, they're able to, especially Muji with the front office, he's able to put his people in there, and maybe we'll have a better outcome next year. But for right now, I'd say the entire offseason, looking at the free agency, the draft, and UDFAs, it's a C plus. Not horrible, but not really great, and we still don't have a good roster as of right now. So, some time ago, the Jets drafted. Did you hear all the? Yes, I did hear that Jeff Olbrecht's son was behind the pranks Shador Sanders call. And you know what? Jeff Olbrecht's going to take a hard look at his family, Joe Mike. He's going to take a hard look at it. A hard look. Yeah, I'm going to take a hard look at this family of mine. Spin Max says JD's drafts were more entertaining to follow than Muji. Let's see how his drafts pan out. Yeah, we're going to take a look and see how his drafts pan out. Mooj will need time to get his GM name out there. I don't know about that. Yeah, this is what I think. Muji needs some time to remake the GM office. They just didn't have enough time to fire as many people. He hired a few people. He brought on Spielman, and he kept Savage to help him. But I don't think he had enough time to really remake the front office as he hopefully wants to do. So I'm going to be watching very carefully over the next 12 months. I think we did okay, but We could have done a lot better. He made a lot of mistakes. So we're going to go over that when we go over the roster here in a second. Clifford, love that AG addressed our fourth round wide receiver drops. Yeah, we'll go over these drops in a second. My question about the drops is this kid, they have jugs guns in college, you know. They do have jugs guns in college. That is something they have there. So why haven't you addressed it? Oh, I'm going to address it when I get to New York. Okay, why haven't you addressed it already? They have jugs guns in college. You could be addressing it now. But yeah, he was honest. He said, hey, this kid has too many drops and he needs to fix it. Yeah, this is what I think, JoJo. Now the draft is over. All the heavy lifting is done. My major free agency's over. UDFA's are over. The draft is over. So now Muji's got time to sit there and go, okay, who do I need? Who do I not need? How do I need to improve this front office? Let's hope he does so, JoJo. And Glenn, yeah, Glenn's going to play a big part of it. But Aaron Glenn, so the power structure is Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji both report to Woody, as does Jaime El High on the business side. The problem with that is Aaron Glenn doesn't have any experience as a head coach. So now he's a powerful head coach as opposed to Salah, who is not a powerful head coach in terms of the reporting structure, because Salah just reported to Douglas and Douglas reported up. So now we had to, in order to get AG, we had to give him that. Okay. But also, this is the first time, he's a first time head coach. So we're giving him a lot of power and it's his first time. So that's another one where AG is going to have to grow into it. Now, if you look at somebody like the Patriots did the same thing with Vrabel, right? Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel has all the power in that organization now. Like if you look at the post draft press conferences, it's Vrabel. Vrabel's giving the press conference. There's no Elliot Wolf's not there. Nobody in the front office. It's just Vrabel. He's there. He's there by himself, going, okay, we did like so. Vrabel is the de facto head coach and GM, and the other people just kind of work for Vrabel. Like Elliot Wolf seems to be the structure there. Now that's different because Vrabel's been a head coach for a long time and had lots of experience coming into this job. So he kind of already knew how to get things situated. It's also a little different because they had a lot of money to spend and they didn't have an expensive quarterback situation to deal with. So he had that advantage going for him. They got the young quarterback on the rookie contract and they had $100 million to spend in cap space. So but Vrabel knew what to do with it. And then on top of that, they had a really good draft. But they did the same thing we did in terms of the power of the head coach, except their head coach has a lot more experience. And so and had a better situation, let's be honest, relative to building up the talent on the team. We had to deal with a $49 million, cap hit with Rodgers and not having the quarterback in place necessarily that we're, sure about. And we didn't have as much cap room. So Vrabel had some advantages. He also had more experience and he did a lot better. So that's to be expected. That's why everybody wanted Vrabel, including us. And we tried very hard for him, and we couldn't get him because the Patriots job came open, and he wanted that one more. So what we can hope is that AG then grows into the role, and Muji as well. They did okay this offseason. They didn't do great. They didn't do terrible, horrible. They got to clean up the cap a little bit and deal with the Rodgers situation, the aftermath of that. And so, we'll see, but that's what we have going for us. Whereas the Dolphins, for example, they had a pretty bad offseason as far as I could tell. And, Chris Greer's been at this for a long time. Chris Greer has been the GM for the Dolphins for 10 years now, something like that. And he doesn't seem to be getting better at it. But we'll go over the rosters and we'll see. Maybe my perception is incorrect. Let's see. JoJo says next draft will be a real reflection. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, JoJo. That's exactly what I'm thinking. And let's hope so. Let's hope we get some different pro personnel in here, especially the draft and the pro personnel people. I think for a long time, our pro personnel people have been lacking. They just bang the table for too many bums. Yeah. Spin Max says favorite draft pick and the worst, also favorite UDFA signing. We'll go over this a little bit when we take a look at the rosters. But the best picks were clearly the first two. There's just no doubt about it. Membu and Taylor should be day one contributors. That was we aced that. Then you got an AZ Thomas, which is a great value, but doesn't really fit on the roster. And then the other guys are just special teams. We'll see what they'll be in year 2 or 3, maybe. The first two picks should be impact players, so that's good. We got at least two impact players, so that's a good way to start. The UDFA signing, there's basically two interesting guys. One is the defensive tackle we signed. We'll take a look at it when we look at the roster. The defensive tackle has a chance to make the team because we have such lack of depth there. And then we signed a special teams guy who plays defensive end out of Florida. That guy is very interesting. We gave him a lot of money and relative to UDFA's, and he's a very interesting sort of guy. He could become one of the best special teams players in the league. He played like 4 different positions in college, and this year wound up playing defensive end. So this is a very interesting guy, and we'll take a look at that. But he's the one who could actually make the team, and then the defensive tackle because of position scarcity. Yeah, so Joe Mike says, Muji mentioned there was a run on speed. Feels like they panicked. Yeah, it's not a good look. I mean, it was a reach to get him. If they love the kid and if he can stop dropping things, dropping the ball, the thing about him is, he gives us something we didn't have. So there might have been a better all around wide receiver, for example, but we just didn't have a burner on this team. So they might have looked at it like, well, it's a reach, but he gives us an element that we don't currently have in the room and that we need and want. All right. Yeah, it's not the best, to be honest. Jojo says, yeah, we're going to take a look at the Dolphins. We'll take a look at all the AFC East teams. Ewers will not beat out Zach Jojo. Nope. They gave Zach Wilson $6 million guaranteed. Ewers is not beating him out. Weston, yeah, Weston. That's a kid's name. So this Weston kid, this is the most interesting UDFA to follow. All the other ones, I mean, you never know. Pritchett might be okay. There was somebody making a big deal out of Jamal Pritchett, the wide receiver, but this Weston kid. Now 200,000's not. I mean, it's a lot, but it wasn't in the top 10 or so of signing bonuses given out by teams. But it is relatively a lot, and especially for a guy who you're thinking about going to be a special team, but he's supposedly a special teamer. So we'll see. Now the wide receivers, we signed 2 of them, and we'll take a look at them. They could stick just because we have not a lot of depth at wide receiver. So let's take a look at Dick Chimney's column today. Why do we want to do that, Frank? Well, he's got some decent news in here. Let's see if we can do this over here. Take a look at a couple of things, and then we'll take a look at the roster. This is Chimney's column, okay, the smoke blower. Volunteer work. So this is the good news right here. It says, when a player wants a contract extension, he sometimes boycotts the voluntary portion of the offseason program to send a message and protect himself from injury. Cornerback Sauce Gardner, wide receiver Garrett Wilson, running back Brees Hall, linebacker Quincy Williams would be justified in taking that route, but they're all participating to varying degrees. Whatever this means, participating to varying degrees. So these guys are all there, according to his sauces. That's a positive. But of course, everybody and their mother knew, except the Jets, about their defensive tackle problem. Even Chimney knows. Glaring omission, failed to address one of their top needs, defensive tackle. They got jumped by the Bills. I would call it punked by the Bills. When they got Deone Walker, guy we wanted, Jets, the Bills suspected the Jets might grab him. Yeah, because when you leave a hole on your roster that big, everybody can punk you because they know what you need, even though you don't seem to. Uh, this is kind of an interesting thing. The Armand Membu um, has been clocked at 21 miles per hour on the field, reportedly. Our right tackle can run 21 miles an hour. To put that into perspective, the Jets only had one ball carrier reach 21 miles per hour last season. Cornerback Brandon Eccles on an interception return. Brandon Eccles is much smaller than Armand Membu. So why is speed important for an offensive lineman? Well, it just shows the explosiveness that they have in their body, in how in their physicality. Stacks of pancakes. If you want to be entertained, check out Membu's high school highlights. It's 6+ minutes of utter domination. He serves up more pancakes than a short order cook at IHOP. The most eye catching play occurs at the 35-second mark in pass protection. Membu locks up his man around midfield and steers him all the way to the sideline, continuing to drive even after the play is over. It's something straight out of the Blind Side movie. So that's the thing. I think my favorite guy is Membu, and the fact that we got this offensive line, hopefully secured. Hopefully we get some news about, contract extensions for AVT and John Simpson, and we can keep these guys together for a while, and hopefully it becomes a situation where every game you can just start saying, "Hope you like breakfast," because we serving pancakes all day long, baby. But let's see. Let's see it happen first before we can say those kinds of things. So that's all that's really interesting in the chimney column. Uh, they should have given. Yeah, I was looking at Jimmy. I was looking at Nick Nash too. I was like, man, why aren't they signing this guy? Because some people were liking him as a late pick. Also, Xavier Restrepo, I was thinking, but Restrepo, of course, went with his buddy Cam Ward, so that makes sense. But yeah, I was thinking maybe they could have signed Nick Nash too, Jimmy, but we didn't get him. Jordan Clark, yeah, son of Ryan Clark. We'll see. Phil Adams says, I have a Kia Soul that only made 20 miles per Well, if you buy your cars from Korea, Phil, yeah, I'm not sure that's the best strategy. Next draft, Jets will probably pick a DT early and later in the draft select O lineman. Yeah, the problem is they got to play games in the meantime, Harlan. Now, our coach also said something about Aaron Smith and his dropsies. He's going to work on it. Like who? Jameson Williams. He said Jameson Williams had a problem and he worked on it and he fixed it. And I said, is that true? We have something called statistics to help us see if what our coaches said are true. Are they big liars? Are they just lying to us all over the place? Well, turns out AG was correct. He was not lying. And you can see here that Jameson Williams went from 22.2%, which is terrible, of droppings in year one. Then in year two went to 9.5%. That's significantly lower. And then last year, when he got his most opportunities, actually, so that's even more encouraging, down all the way down to 3.3%. So when we're talking about these droppings, this is the model right here. And then, of course, Williams' third year, and look at the year he had. 58 catches for 1,000 yards. This guy was really good, better than I thought, actually. And in only 15 games. J-Mo. So that's significant. He went from 22.2 all the way down to 3.3. The NFL average is around 5%. So this is excellent work. So this is our coach. He was not lying. This is what he said. And it turns out to be accurate. Now, just because Jameson Williams did it, does that mean Arian Smith can do the same thing? Well, no. I mean, if Alan, what about Alan Lazard? Why can't he do it? So, but it can be done. That's the idea. And he was correct in what he said. JMO had a problem. He went to work on it very hard, apparently, and he fixed it. So 22.2 to 3.3, that is excellent. So hopefully the Smith kid, now, if he fixes those problems, and the other thing is, that I did see a video of John Gruden. John Gruden was giving a very strong endorsement to Arian Smith. Loves the kid, loves his mentality, loves his work ethic, loves everything about him, except for the drops. Did mention the drops in the video too. Um, but if John Gruden's giving you an endorsement, that's pretty good. That doesn't hurt. So apparently he's a hard worker. He's going to work on it and all this. So we'll have to see if that works out. Let's see. Okay, so that's how we did. Now, what about the rosters, Frankie? We got to check out. So, how did we do overall? Because a lot of people were saying, hey, um, we, this guy is okay. It's okay that we have that. It's okay that we have this, but they're not putting things into perspective of the roster. So, you have to actually know what the roster actually looks like uh, to know how things fit and how they affect other things. So now this is going to be audience participation time. So pay attention, wake up in the chat. Um, Take a look and see if I got anything wrong. Now, how does this work? This is our roster, and we got several categories, and they're set by color. So the blue is the dark blue is a blue chip or Pro Bowl level type of player. Okay, the red is the next level down. That's like a red chipper, quality starter, good player. Orange is average, and then yellow is below average, and then gray is roster fringe. And then anybody in green is somebody who we just drafted in this draft, and then the light blue are all the UDFAs that we signed. So take a look at the offense. Let's make this a little bigger. Take a look at this offense. And did I get any of these ratings wrong? In other words, am I too high or am I too low on any of these people? Understanding blue is a blue chipper, red is a red chipper, orange is average, and then yellow is below average, and gray is roster fringe, and light blue is UDFA signing. So take a look at these guys and let me know if you think I'm too high or too low on anybody here for the Jets. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is you need at least 8 to 12 blue chippers to be a competitor for the Super Bowl. We do not have that. We're not even close. So we're not in that range. Certainly not right now. So that's out of the question. But then we're going to take a look at the Bills, the Patriots, and Dolphins to see how we compare to our division and can we compete for second place. Can we compete for can we compete for a playoff spot? We're certainly not at the Super Bowl level. That I think everybody understands that. But where are we relative to maybe the next level of can we be in the playoff mix this year? My answer is going to be no. Fields is too low, IndyJet says. So you think Justin Fields is better than average? So Fields I rated as average because you can't. I mean, the guy has not. Now, some of these people have their, like if we go to the defense, some of these people have their PFF grades here because as a justification. But Fields, I had to keep him average because he hasn't proven that he's a quality player yet. He could be. Now, this does not take into account potential. People can improve, and he's the biggest question mark we have, obviously. Fields could take the next step and become a red chipper. If he does, then we're signing him long term and we got our quarterback. But we don't know if he's going to do that yet. So I kept him as average. You could make the case that he should be red based on his running ability. I mean, he does have the second most rushing yards ever for a quarterback in NFL history. So, hey, how can he be average if that's the case? But his running is certainly elite, but his passing hasn't been. And he had too small of a sample size last year for me to really think that was the way he's going to be. Harlan says Fields hasn't taken a snap for the Jets. Yeah, but what does that have to do with anything? He has 4 or 5 years of experience in the league. Barney Miller says all our picks are. Yeah. So let me know if Gibson seems below average is high, Phil. I mean, he's a below average player because the only other thing, yeah. So we'll get to Will McDonald. That's why I have his number there. We'll explain him. So on the offense, anybody else have any comments on the offense? Then we'll go to defense. A couple of things to keep in mind. One of these two guys here, the wide receivers, they could make the team if they show out. Also, Donovan Edwards out of Michigan was thought to be a big time player. He kind of had a down year, but he's coming out of Michigan. He's a running back out of Michigan. So he's got a shot just because of his kind of pedigree. And then Gus Hartwig is the center out of Purdue, which is a fairly large program. And because of our lack of depth in the offensive line, one injury or whatever, Gus Hartwig could make the team. And then you might not have heard this guy, Leander Weigand, we signed out of Germany. We got a guy out of Germany, baby. So we actually have two international pathway players on our squad right now. But Xavier Gibson has to be below average because he's going to make the team, I think. And the only other level Phil Adams below yellow is gray, which is roster fringe. And he's played in the league a significant amount. So I can't drop him to roster fringe. I think he's going to make the roster solidly. Looks like the O line is the strongest position group. Do you have a box on your spreadsheet for character? No, no, Barney. We just care about performance. If you have great character but you stink, what do I care? you can be the greatest human being on earth. I mean, it's like Solomon Thomas, right? Love Solomon Thomas. You know what I mean? Solomon Thomas is the highest character person you could have. Guess what? The team still ran all over us, Barney, last year because he stinks on the field. I love high character guys. It's wonderful, but you got to play well. And ultimately, it's about how you play. I thought yellow was average. No, orange is average. Yellow is below average. So you see, there's too much yellow here. That's the problem. Well, you want orange, red, or blue, really. Dark blue. Hall, maybe too high. Yeah. So I actually, this is a good point by Indy Jets makes here. Hall, maybe too high. Even Hall, Vera Tucker, and Garrett are actually somebody who's not a Jet fan would come in and say, wait a minute. None of those players have made a Pro Bowl, and you have them as blue chippers. Now, so I'm grading them on a curve. I think as a Jet fan, they're blue chip players, but you could say, well, these people haven't made a Pro Bowl. So how are they blue chip exactly? So I agree that Hall, Vera Tucker, and Wilson may be too high, but I'm a Jet fan, so I'm grading them on a curve. But certainly they would be red otherwise. So they're either blue or red chippers. And most people might say they're actually red chippers, Frankie. What are you talking about? Skills says hopefully Smith is our poor man's JMO. Yeah, let's hope so. Now, I think the chart is pretty accurate. All right. So now here's the defense. Now, some people may say, how is Will McDonald, and somebody already brought up Will McDonald, how the hell's he below average? Well, look at his PFF grade. And Will McDonald, for one thing, is 59.4. But the way that breaks down is that his pass rush is very good and his run defense is very, very bad. Joe Mike says Max Mitchell and Warren should be gray. I don't think so. I think they're making the team, Joe. We don't have enough depth to get rid of them. And if they're making the team, then they got to be below average. Pretty much. I mean, but so Will McDonald, he's a strange case because his overall grade is 59, which is below average, but he's a very good pass rusher, as we know, but he's very bad against the run. So overall, PFF has him below average, so I just went with that because teams are going to run on us. Now look at all of the players that we signed that our GM said, oh, we don't have a problem with defensive tackle. Cowart's the best one. 58.9, and he's no good. Nadi, 35.8 is his PFF grade. 35.8, that's one of the worst in the league. Probably the worst. J. Tufele, 44.4. Rashad Weaver, 37.6. These people are not good. Braden McGregor, 51.1. Michael Clemens, 50.6. So this was the problem with drafting an AZ Thomas. When you have a huge hole in your roster, you can't then go and get some backup where you have a strength. It's nothing against AZ Thomas. I like the player. He might turn out to be good. Maybe he'll be better than Stevens, and maybe it'll be great in the long term. But for right now, we needed a defensive tackle there, or you could have got a better wide receiver for Justin Fields. But we went with a position of strength because of the value of the pick, which is understandable. It was a great pick in a vacuum. But when you have this situation here with so much yellow, I mean, this defense, look at it. It's not good. Okay, Barney, good to see. I'm not talking about analytics. I'm just talking about how they are on the field. So we're not. So this is a spreadsheet, but it's based on what people are doing on the field. We could bring up, like, I could go through the film study of Will McDonald and Byron Coward and Derek Noddy, but it would just take too long. It would take me 5 hours, and I couldn't do that. So we used. So I guess this is a good thing to say so people understand. This isn't just based on the PFF grades. The PFF grades are here because it's a shortcut to not have a 5 hour fucking video. You understand? I can't show you a 5 hour video of how bad Will McDonald is against the run. The grades just tell you that. It's true. He stinks against the run. Derek Nottie gets blown off the line of scrimmage constantly. I could show you the video, but it would take me 5 hours to go through all these players. So we use statistics to be a starting point and to show us information, and then we go and look at the tape to back it up, which I have done, but it would take me too long. So you're gonna have to just trust me on that. Well, I'm not doing a 5 hour video, Barney, about how bad these players are. They're just bad. You're just gonna have to take my word for it. Jimmy Jets, are you grading on a curve or PFF grade? Can't do both. Well, for some players, it's obvious what they are. Quinnen Williams is an obvious blue chipper. Quincy Williams is an obvious blue chipper. He's made an All-Pro. Jamie Williams is a Pro Bowl player. Ahmad Gardner has 2 All-Pros. These are obvious. For other ones who are in the middle, where it's like I'm not sure what they are. Derek Nottie, I knew he was bad. I didn't know how bad he was. Leonard Taylor, you can make the case, shouldn't he be higher? Maybe he could be average. But Andre Cisco, I knew he was okay, but I didn't know if he was average or above average or below average. He's below average. Tony Adams is just below average. We know that. Stevens, for example, I wasn't sure if he was average or below average. So you have to, and I had to go do the Bills, Patriots, and Dolphins also. So you have to use the PFF grades as a shortcut because you can't watch tape on 7,000 players. So that's what I did. If I knew what they were, I didn't go look them up. Isaiah Oliver is below average. Quantez Stiggers is below. Jamin Davis is below average. I didn't go look those people up. So Jermaine Johnson, maybe he might be better than average, but for right now, he's also coming off an injury. For right now, he's average. So that's where we are. Michael Clemens red would be a red chip player, so you're reading the chart wrong, Barney. Michael Clemens, this is the worst he can be other than roster fringe, but he's going to make the team, so he's below average. And so this is where we are now. As a summary, this is the part that's really kind of interesting. If you look at the blue chip, red chip, and average players, we got 19 of those. We got 19 players that are average and above. 19. So this is the part that worries me, and this is why we really should have signed a defensive tackle. We really should have. That's better than the ones we signed. We really should have signed a better tight end. We just don't have enough talent. Well, how do you know how much talent is enough? Well, let's look at the Bills, for example. The Bills, I have them having 29 average and above players. The Buffalo Bills are a Super Bowl team. They got their 12 blue chippers, including their quarterback, obviously elite. And they have 29. So they have 10 more players that are average or above, 10 more than we do. And they have way more blue chippers. So I think we all know that the Buffalo Bills, for example, are Super Bowl contenders. We're not in their league. They're in the gated community of the NFL. We've already said that. Brandon Beane punked Our paperboy GM 3 times during the draft to get the players that he wanted, including Landon Jackson and TJ Sanders and Deone Walker and so forth and so on. And you look what they did. They had a really good draft. They got one of my guys, Jackson Hawes, to come in and block your face off. Um, this is just a really solid team. I mean, where is the hole on this team? This is a solid team. You could say Osiris Torrance needs to improve. Okay. But man, is this solid. And look at the defense. You could say, well, their safeties aren't as good as, they could use some improvement in the safeties. They could still go sign Justin Simmons tomorrow. They might. So, you know, this is a solid team, though. I think everybody understands the Bills. We're not in the Bills class. They're going to win the AFC East this year, no problem. And they're going to, if they don't go to the Super Bowl, that's a disappointment for them. So they're on another level. But what about the other 2 teams in our division? Well, look at the Patriots. So the Patriots came into this offseason with a very bad roster and needing a lot of improvement. They had $100 million in cap space to spend, and Vrabel spent it. And now they have 25 average and above players, 6 more than we do. So, you look at this. I mean, they're a little light on the offensive line. They're relying on some rookies. The other thing is these rookies are characterized as rookies because we don't know how they're going to play. So if you have rookies that play really well, that can obviously improve the team. But they only have 6 blue chippers. But they went out and spent a lot of money to get a lot of average players to bulk up the roster. That makes a lot of sense. When you have a terrible roster, you go out, you spend all this money, you get average players that lifts up the state of the roster. Now, they don't have a ton of blue chippers, but what they did was by spending that money, they basically just got a lot more average players. And then I think they're going to do pretty well this year. They're going to improve it. Of course, a lot depends on what Drake May does. And then next year, they'll be real contenders. Like this year, they could be in the 7, 8, 9, 10 win range, maybe, depending on how things go. And then next year, one more offseason, and they'll be basically perennial uh, playoff team. So even the Patriots, with as bad as they were roster-wise, they leapfrogged us. Well, what about the Dolphins? Well, you look at the Dolphins, they have 24 average and above players. So we have the fewest of anybody in the AFC East. We have 19. They have 7 blue chip Pro Bowl players. So they're a little light compared to Buffalo. They have 7 quality starter good players that they have. You may not know that James Daniels had a PFF grade of 92.9 last year, which is one of the best in all of football. Very hard to get that high of a score. And then if you look at the Dolphins, though, they do have 2 big ifs. 2 of their blue chip players, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey, may not be on the team when the season starts. So we'll have to see how that plays out. If they lose those 2 players, obviously that's a big dip in the quality of the roster. And they don't have a lot of depth behind. And I don't think they did a great job in this draft, to be honest with you. If you look at their draft, they got Savvy, which is a good player, okay, but they needed more help in the offensive line. I don't think they dressed it enough. They drafted Quinn Ewers. Ollie Gordon's is a good, decent running back, but that's running back. Jordan Phillips, Zeke Biggers. I don't think they did enough. Dante Trader, Jason Marshall in the draft or in free agency, really, to improve the roster. Kenneth Grant, I like that player. It took him 13th overall. I think they were hoping to get Kelvin Banks, but he went early before them. But this is the Dolphins. So the way it's shaking out is that the Bills and the Patriots are going to be sort of like the top half of the AFC East and going forward. And then the Jets and the Dolphins, and we'll have to see how Muji improves the roster year 2, year 3, so forth and so on. Yeah, Joe, I'm thinking 4, 5, 6, that range. It's going to be a rough year. Now, the thing for the Jets is that we're really looking at Justin Fields and what he can do. and what he is. Can what I call Fields maxing. Can he be our franchise quarterback? Now, if we have a year where Fields balls out and he's great and the offense is rolling and the defense is bad and therefore we win 5 games or 6 games or something like that, well, in a certain sense, that's a win for the Jets because then we have our quarterback. And we've determined that, and then we spend the next year bulking up the defense, and then we should be good to go, and we'll see, see what that looks like. Um, but that's essentially what we're doing, and so that's the thing that can be surprising, is that Fields can play much better than he has historically. We could have an offense that's surprisingly better than people think, based on the names on the paper. We could This RPO offense could perform better than you would think based on just looking at it on paper. That's always possible. Yeah, I agree with JoJo and Joe Mike. Well, I mean, yeah, I'm on St. Brown. I'm on St. Brown. I mean, you could, sort of like pick any player who had drop issues and then say, but then now he doesn't. Like Tony Gonzalez had drop issues his first year in the league and then he fixed it. And after that, he played 20 years and never had drop issues again. But then what about all the wide receivers who had drop issues and didn't fix them? What about the thousands of players like that? I would say no, Phil. I mean, the what you want is basically uh, a non-Adam Gase situation. So bad coaching like Adam Gase and his staff brings players down. So you don't want that. We want a staff that's not going to bring the quality of the players down. You want them to be able to bring out the best in the players. Where the coaching really makes a difference in particular is suiting the schemes to the players you have. So for example, this defense, one thing that we don't know, by the way, we don't even know what scheme we're running on defense. None of our dopey beat writers have asked anybody. It's possible that we're running a different kind of scheme that may be able to use the skills of these players better than what they were used last year, and therefore they're going to play better, like Noddy and Cowart say or something. So, but we don't know that. But on offense, the biggest thing is, are you, um, what are you running relative to what your quarterback can do? So, for example, in this situation, Justin Fields has an elite trait. It's called running. He's elite at it. It's not good, okay. He's elite. And so we're going to run an RPO offense that suits him this way. And that's why it was essential to get the right tackle and the tight end. I wish we got another tight end, but it's also could be that Andrew Beck could play a bigger role than anybody thinks, because in that type of offense, having a sniffer, which is what we're going to use him as, is important. So, you know, that's coaching in a sense, meaning you're tailoring your scheme to the skill set of your players, and then they execute it well. Okay, is that coaching or is that like architecting? So there, I mean, you just don't want bad coaches. You want people to feel good coming into work. You want them to think that the coaches know what they're talking about and all that good stuff. And we have that now. And we had it under Sala. The problem with Sala was the quarterback. It was the quarterback and the offensive line couldn't get their act together, and then he fired LaFleur, sort of like as a knee jerk. And then Zach just continued not to work out. We continued to have offensive line injuries and so forth. And then we made the move for Rodgers, and then that whole debacle. But that coaching staff was fine. It was okay. It's not like they were terrible. It's not like they were the gay staff. The only problem was really Hackett vis-a-vis Rodgers. It was the Hackett-Rodgers connection. And we had to keep Hackett because we had Rodgers. Rodgers liked Hackett. And so they weren't going to change what they were doing. They just kept doing what they'd always done. And that didn't work with a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers. But otherwise, I mean, our defensive coaches were good for the most part. Um, you know, Sean Jefferson was good. We still have him. Um, so that's the sort of thing where we're going to match the scheme to the quarterback, and we're going to see how that works, and yield um, that could yield better results than you would think based on the talent level on the roster because we're utilizing these people's skill sets in a way that is that basically brings out the best in them and makes them perform at a higher level than they have historically. Because the other thing about this is just based on historical performance. Malachi Corley right here is below average. He might become a contributor next year and become an average player. Garrett Wilson might become solidified into his blue chip status. And also, Olu, Simpson, and Tippmann could become blue chippers. They certainly have the potential. So, potential is not included in this. Scheme fit and things of that nature not included in this. So, those are some things that can play a factor into how things work. But that's mostly on the offense. So, I would say our potential is on the offense. This defense is worrying me tremendously. I mean, there's just not enough good players here. Now, maybe there's some free agents still out there. There's Darius Smith is still out there. We could sign him. That would help a lot. We could sign a kid named Taven Bryan. He could come in. He would be better than Nadi and Tufele. So that'd be a slight improvement. That's a defensive tackle. There might be others that we could get. There might be some people we get on cut down day, for example. I don't think this is going to be one of the years where our cut players are going to be signing all over the place. But perhaps we are the team signing some cut players, and maybe there could be some slight improvements there. Also, like I said, the rookies. The actual weakness of this model right here, if you're just going to go on player quality and how's that translate to wins, there's basically two weaknesses to this model here that I've built right here. One is what I said about the scheme and how the coaches fit the players' skill sets and all that. And of course, there's always a possibility that the team can play better as a whole than the sum of their parts type of thing. But that typically doesn't really happen in the NFL. The teams with the best players usually win. But the other thing about it is that we don't know how these rookies are going to play. So our 7 rookies, and maybe if a UDFA or two makes it, our 7+ rookies, maybe 3 or 4 of them surprisingly make an impact. We think Membu and Taylor are going to make an impact for sure. We think. But maybe Malachi Moore and Francisco Mwanga are better than we think and are actually impact players. Or Tyler Barron is actually a third down. Tyler Barron actually has a potential as a third down specialist, Bryce Huff type. So he's not going to stop the run any, which is a concern. But on pass rush, Tyler Barron actually may help us. And Arian Smith maybe stops dropping the ball and is a big play threat down the field. And, Justin Fields does have a big arm. He can throw bombs, and he's very good at it, actually. So if Arian Smith is able to get open down the field and catch the ball, that could be something where we're mostly running RPO around the line of scrimmage stuff, but then every once in a while we throw a bomb to Garrett or a bomb to Arian, and hey, that'd be fantastic. But you can't qualify that here. Like we don't know necessarily. If you look at the Bills, we don't know how these 3 guys are going to play. They may be great. They may stink. We think Maxwell Hairston will have a role. Or you look at the Patriots, Will Campbell is probably going to be a good player, seems like, probably. But we don't know until he actually plays. And they also picked a guy that I wanted, Joshua Farmer. Um, so they just did a good job. They also got Travian Henderson. So we're going to have to tackle that mother trucker going forward. And a nice wide receiver, Kyle Williams. Annoying. But anyway, that's another weakness of this model is we don't know how the draftees are going to play because how can you know until you see them play? Yeah, skills. We're going to let Fields actually be a quarterback, and he's going to take us to the playoffs. If he can't, then Taylor will take us there. Ha ha. We'll see. Yeah, Joe, it's not good. It's not good, Joe. He did not have a good offseason at all. Um, to be honest, I mean, he didn't. It's not an F, but there. Let me show you an example. So one of the things that we got wrong was giving Brandon Stevens all that money. Right? We gave Brandon Stevens a $12 million a year contract when we really didn't have to. What we could have done instead is that we could have um, we could have just given $4 million to Brandon Eccles, and we could have had a comp pick, a fourth round comp pick, uh, instead. The Brandon Stevens contract canceled out some of the people we lost. So then you would have, and then if you took AZ Thomas and you had Brandon Eccles here, you would have let them battle it out. Maybe AZ wins it, and then you could have used the money to get a guy like a Levi Onwuzurike as a defensive tackle that would have helped you stop the run. And then it also would have not been so obvious that you needed a defensive tackle that the Buffalo Bills punk you 3 times in the draft by jumping you 3 times to get ahead of you to get the players they want because they think you want those players. So that one decision to sign Brandon Stevens to a 3-year, $36 million contract, which nobody understood at the time and still nobody understands, had knock-on effects that were significant, which I discussed at the time when it happened. I said at the time this was a mistake. And so that's what we did. Well, Brandon Stevens might play safety. Okay, now you're going to take a cornerback who's never played safety and teach him a whole new position when you could have just signed Justin Simmons or some other safety who already knows how to play safety for much less money. So you're going to pay a guy a lot of money to switch positions that he's never played before? That doesn't even make sense. So these are the types of mistakes that a rookie GM makes, I think, and hopefully he gets better. But that was just poor resource allocation relative to other things that you could have done to smooth out the roster in terms of quality. I mean, this is a lot of yellow. This is a lot of yellow for a defense, especially when you got this much yellow in the starting ranks for a stringer. You know, Joe says it's clear there's roster turnover underway. Thomas Smith, yeah, we're drafted to replace some folks. Well, Surratt is off the roster, so Gibson. I mean, we'll have to see how these guys compete. We don't know what Mwanga is going to be. We really don't. Malachi Moore, he might be something, he might not. We really have to see. Az Thomas, is he going to? What is he going to be? We don't know. Um, but if I mean, it's really hard to tell, Joe. To be honest with you. Yeah. So like, this is what I think, Jimmy. It is. I think it's more of a retooling year than we've been led to believe. This is my ultimate. Um, this is my ultimate opinion. This is a retooling year. So my expectations are now a lot lower. I'll be much more interested in what Justin Fields does and what he can become rather than necessarily winning. If we win, that's great, but my expectations are pretty low now. And if you look at it, I don't see how we can stop the run with the personnel we have. B Trav. I really don't. I mean, teams are just going to get used to duo running up the middle, A gap runs for 30 yards because that's what you're going to see all year with these players here. Unless we do something different, unless we sign some other people or make a trade or something, we're going to see a lot of duo up the middle, 30 yards. There goes Ramondre Stevenson. There goes Travion Henderson. There goes Devin H. And there goes James Cook. There goes everybody because they're just going to run it up the middle like they have the last 2 years, like I've been screaming about. If you guys watch the games with me on the Green Bean channel, I tell you when it's going to happen right before it happens, and then it happens because it's obvious. The The team goes to 11. We go to nickel. And then they run duo right up the middle in an A gap run, and boom, there they go. There goes James Cook. There goes Ty Johnson. There goes Ray Davis. There goes Ramondre Stevenson. There goes Travion Henderson for a 25-yard run right up the middle. I mean, it's going to get annoying. It's one of those things where I'm going to be very annoyed when we're watching the games because I'm telling you in the off season that it's going to happen. I told you all the whole time when we were watching the games. And so it's like, you know, I don't understand why the pro personnel department said Noddy, Tufele, and Cowart is the solution to this. It's ridiculous. Yeah, it's a retooling year. So I think that's why I think, look, it's a retooling year. It's a year for Muji to get his staff in place, I guess, and hopefully fire the pro personnel department and get his own people in here because it's going to be rough on defense with this level of talent. There's just not enough talent here. I mean, look at the names. There's just not enough talent here. There just isn't. When did he play safety for Baltimore? He was not a natural safety. Well, you're just making stuff up, Jimmy. What are you talking about? So Brandon Stevens was a guy who was a running back in college, I think, or something. He was not. Brandon Stevens is. I'm not very high on Brandon Stevens. Let's look at his Let's look at his career. Defense. Alignment. So 2024 he played cornerback. 2023 played cornerback. 2022 they have a couple of games. Well, there's one game where he played 3 snaps at safety. Okay, you got 3 snaps. Good. And then another game where he played 1 snap. So I got 4 snaps at safety. Okay, I guess that's experience, huh? 4 snaps. 2021. Yeah, that's not true. 2021, they got him as a safety. All right. You got me, Jimmy. You got me. You got me. But I still don't understand why you're going to pay the guy $12 million to go back to safety. Maybe he'll be great at safety. I don't know. But you're also saying the Baltimore Ravens don't know what they're doing. I wouldn't say he's a natural safety. He played safety. They have Free and Strong here. But he also graded out as below average. 53 was what he graded out as. Why not just go sign a regular safety? Why not go sign a safety instead of a cornerback safety guy they moved around, didn't know how to use him? Yeah, that's B-Trav. That's exactly what we're going to have to look at. So get ready for that. I'm just telling you, get ready for that. Here's the good news without monster defensive tackles. The Jets have a good draft pick. Yeah, well, during the season, it's going to be rough. Yeah, sorry, Jimmy. I got it wrong. You were right. You were right. I didn't know in his rookie year he was a safety. You're right. Second year, he played 4 snaps, and then from then on, he was a corner. But he wasn't a good safety. They moved him out of there. So now we're going to move him to a place where he wasn't good. Instead of just signing a regular safety. That was already. Why are we going to give a guy 3-year contract to move positions? Even if you think he's a safety, the signing makes no sense. Now, you want to give him a 1-year contract for $5 million to move him to safety and see if he could do it? Okay, that's fine. You gave him $36 million, 24 guaranteed over 3 years. And now you're going to move him to a non-premium position for $12 million, which he only played in his rookie year and didn't play very well. at all. And you're going to tell me your coaching is going to get more out of him than the Baltimore Ravens, right? So he has played it. You were right, but he wasn't good at it, and they moved him, and it was the Ravens. So where the Jets are going to outcoach the Ravens? Excuse me. You understand? They're the perennial playoff team. They're the team that's looked at as a model franchise that has had like three head coaches their entire history. You know, we're gonna outcoach them. What? So that's the thing. When you make a mistake, it comes back to haunt you, and there are ripple effects when you have a capped league. You know, and so it's going to be a rough season, I think. Jojo, Jets are going to need more than just drafting a quarterback in 26. Well, let's see how 25 goes. I mean, the main thing is Justin Fields. Hopefully, he can be the guy, and then we don't have to worry about that. And then we can just build around him. And it's a lot simpler if Justin Fields just goes out and balls out and is a top, you know, 12 to 15 quarterback. Can we get a top 12 quarterback performance out of Justin Fields? You know, if so, then he's our guy. We sign him to a long-term deal, and we just build everything around him. It's a lot makes life a lot easier. Other than doing the whole. And let me tell you something. I do not want to do the whole quarterback carousel draft a quarterback deal. You know what I mean? With uh, freaking figuring out which one of these quarterbacks we should draft, and then you're gonna have people who want Drew Aller, and some people want Lenora Sellers, and some people want this one and that one, and everybody gets entrenched in their opinions, and they're like, if you don't like this guy, then I hate you, and you're an idiot, and da, 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 da. So we'll see. Why not? This isn't the Salah era. Well, even in the Salah era, we did convert Jason Pinnock to safety. He was a starting safety in the league, not a great one. Um, we, I mean, the defense. People think that the Salah era was bad coaching. It wasn't. Not on the defensive side, and then the offensive side, we never were able to get going because we fired LaFleur in a knee-jerk fashion, and then we brought in Hackett, which was a bad move, and then Zach Wilson stunk, and then we brought in Aaron Rodgers, and then he got hurt. But a lot of good things did happen on the defense. We did develop Jamie Sherwood, for example. We did move Jason Pinnock from corner to safety. He went on to become a starting safety for the Giants for a couple of years. Uh, we we developed some guys, at least. I mean, we developed Bryce Huff. uh, yeah. So now we're the Ravens. We're better than the Ravens. I mean, the day the Jets can do anything better than the Ravens will be a banner day in the history of the New York Jets. I'll tell you that much. We're not there yet. Now, maybe it's possible that the Aaron Glenn coaching staff he put together is the greatest coaching staff in the history of the fucking planet. I mean, it's possible. Let's hope so. I mean, we haven't seen them do anything yet, but it's possible that we have an amazing coaching staff that's going to lift everyone up and make them so much better than what they've ever done in their life before. Uh, it's possible, but it's not probable. So we'll have to see. Jojo, the last two quarterbacks we drafted, yeah, the last million quarterbacks we drafted. We haven't, I mean, every quarterback since Namath has been a letdown. And even Namath was a letdown after after 69, pretty much. So, like, uh, that's just the way it is. That's just the way it is. So we'll have to see. I mean, maybe AG just has the best staff ever. I mean, it would be great. Great. It's going to be a long year. It is going to be a long year. Just develop up and then Huff walked. Isn't doing so good in another system. Yeah, exactly. But we did develop him. That's the point. So the coaching staff you have to give them credit where credit's due. They developed Bryce Huff. They developed Jamie Sherwood. They developed Brandon Eccles to a degree. They developed, you know, they developed Quincy Williams. I mean, don't they get credit for Quincy Williams? He was released by Jacksonville. We developed him. Um, So we did some good things, and I think the coaching under Saleh was okay, and the offense just got screwed up because the quarterback wasn't ready. We screwed up the quarterback position. The offensive line got injured too much, and then we fired LaFleur in a knee-jerk fashion that we shouldn't have, and then we decided Wilson wasn't it, so we tried to trade for Rodgers, and that got screwed up for various reasons, mostly because he got injured in the first year. So and then I think probably the pressure got to Salah pretty. I mean, those reports about him taking people's cell phones and things, I think Salah was in over his head a little bit. And him talking to Joe Beningo and texting with fans. I mean, that's, yeah, I think he was in over his head a little bit as a head coach. So that's where we stand. I do think it's going to be a long year. I don't think we're going to be able to stop the run. The talent level on the team is not high enough. And so after all of this, I give Darren Muji and AG, C plus for the off season. It's not over yet. We'll see um, how it works out. Just checking about any late breaking news. It shouldn't be right now. The Jets are also at about 92 people on the roster. I think we get two exemptions because of the two IPP players, international pathway players. So I don't think we're going to sign anybody else. And if we make a regular old free agent signing, like somebody from the league, then we're going to have to release somebody, I think, if my calculations are correct. They're just posting. So the teams are just posting the calls and things of that nature. Yeah, Professor Kuiper. So Mel Kiper gave us a B on the draft. Not that Mel Kiper's opinion is important. It isn't, but I would give that draft probably maybe a B minus. I mean, the first three picks were good. After that, they're basically special teams players. For now, who could develop. I mean, that linebacker, maybe he'll be good at some point in time, but he's not going to be good next year, probably. Glenn will have to be Parcells part two. Fields will have to develop. That's the hope. We have to get lucky at some point, no? I mean, no, B-Trav. We don't have to get lucky. I mean, there are teams that go into 30-year droughts. You know that? 30 years. We've only got a 14-year drought. There, some teams go into 30-year droughts, B-Trav. We don't have to turn it around at all. There's no rhyme or reason. I mean, we're gonna have to turn it around by making smart decisions. That's what bugs me about this offseason. There were very simple things that we could have done that would have been much smarter than what we did. I gave you one example. Instead of signing Brandon Stevens, we could have just signed Brandon Eccles for much less money, use that money to turn around, give Levi Onwuzurike a 2-year deal with more guaranteed money than he got from Detroit, which he would have had to have taken. These players have to take the guaranteed money, and we could have improved our roster significantly that way. That's just one move where it was, minicamp tryout. Well, somebody got a minicamp tryout. What's the source of the news, Joe Mike? Jet B riders don't have it, but then again, a tryout is going to be some obscure source. Oh, here it is. The Jets signed Demiri Miller. Is that what you're saying? How do we have all these people? I must have something wrong with my roster. Because I don't see how we have all these people. Rutgers football is saying that Demiri Miller signed with us. Or he's a running back, I guess. I don't know who this is. Looks like a running back. But that would bring us up to 93. So maybe my roster's wrong. Maybe we cut somebody. I don't know. I'm gonna have to double check. But Rutgers is saying we signed Demiri Miller. Looks like a running back. Doesn't say anything here, but he looks like a running back. And Joe Mike is saying Taneleg Hall, St. Ambrose University rookie minicamp tryouts. I'm not going to put tryout guys on my list. And also tryout guys don't count against your 90 man because you don't have a contract. Tryout guys are like, okay, show up, run around if see what happens, but they don't get a contract. B-Trav, yeah. I mean, it's true, B-Trav. I mean, we're going to have to be smarter going forward. I mean, you saw what Mike Vrabel did. Every move Mike Vrabel did was smart. Some of the moves we made, not so smart. Some of the things were good. Re-signing Sherwood, good. Fields, good. Cisco was a smart signing. Some of the flyers we took, like on a Stone Smart, Tyler Johnson, those were nice signings. But then we made a bunch of errors, and you can't make mistakes. In this game, the general managers have to be killers. You can't be a neophyte paper boy. You have to be a killer. Is Darren Muji a killer or a paper boy? Because he's going up against killers. Eric DaCosta is an assassin when it comes to his job, not a literal one. And my concern is maybe Darren Muji's just too much of a nice guy for this job. That's my real concern. PC says, damn, forgot the stream. Well, that's on you, PC. That's on you. Yeah, we need to start doing a rain dance, or we just need to start making smart decisions and not stupid ones. Harlan says Demir Miller is a wide receiver. Oh, okay. Well, but this hasn't been announced by anybody other than Rutgers, so this could be a tryout. We're not getting. Basically, Aaron Wilson is the guy who has all these signings, and he hasn't announced that one yet. So maybe it's just a tryout. I'm not going to put the tryout guys on my list. It's too bad we couldn't get that tackle from Rutgers. That would have been nice. Oh, Thomas Perry. We couldn't even sign Thomas Perry. Damn, he went undrafted? Shoot. But he only got a minicamp tryout. He's not even getting a contract. Damn, we should have signed him. Anyway, those Rutgers guys, I'm not seeing it officially yet, so I don't know. They might be tryouts and not contracts. We'll have to see. But I'll keep things updated. And for those like Jimmy Jets who are inner circle members, that roster will get updated and then it goes up into the files and then you can look at it at any time. So you can check out the roster anytime you want, and I keep it pretty updated. Yeah, look at the Dolphins, for example. And Chris Greer has been their general manager for what, 10, 11 years? And yet he's not in trouble. Why? Miller is a wide receiver. All right. So we'll have to see what we get. Or we'll have to see if it becomes official. I don't know what you're talking about, infrared. Mason Taylor was not a reach. What are you talking about, infrared? Mason Taylor was not a reach. It was a good pick. That was one of our two excellent picks. The other guys are good, maybe, squint your eyes. They might do something, maybe, maybe not. But we got two picks out of this draft that were good, Membu and Taylor. AZ Thomas will be a good player probably. Where he fits in the roster, that's still TBD. And the rest of them, we'll see. Yeah. No, they punked him. I mean, that's the difference between, Brandon Beane's been at this a long time and doing really well. That's the difference between an experienced guy and a guy who's a paper boy and just trying to get along as a neophyte first year dude. He got punked. When you leave, because think about it, B-Trav, when you leave a hole on your roster that big, everybody knows you have that hole on your roster. That's one of the many reasons we should have signed a guy like Levi. Um, because everybody else is looking at your roster going, wow, they really need that defensive tackle. Let me go get ahead of them because we want one too now. You know? Yeah, exactly, Joe. I already mentioned it earlier, but yeah, Brandon Beane punked us. I mean, Brandon Beane is a killer. He's an assassin, and we got a paper boy as our GM. He's not killing anybody. I don't know. Calm down, infrared. We're the Jets, man. We're not going anywhere. we're in the ghetto, man. Like I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what your expectations were, but we're the Jets. What do you think is going to happen? Jimmy says we signed a UDFA killer. How kicker? How come I'm not seeing these transactions here? Until Aaron Wilson tells me it's true, I'm not going to believe it's true, Jimmy. It may be true, but I'm not seeing the transactions here. And Aaron Wilson puts every transaction possible. So maybe in the next few hours we'll see some of these people, and maybe some of them are invites because some of these rookie minicamp invites are coming in now on the wire. But we'll keep track of it. Miller is 5'11", 181, ran a fast, drops plagued him. Well, we like fast, droppy guys. Led the team in receiving with 4 TDs. All right, bring him in. Sounds good. I mean, there's no such thing as a bad UDFA signing. I mean, you bring them in if they're good, great. If not, goodbye. Caden Davis, Ole Miss. I don't know. I believe you, but I'm just saying I have an X list of all the people who post these things. Aaron Wilson's the one who posts every single thing, and I haven't seen him post about these things yet. So I'm not seeing anybody else post about it just yet. Anyways. Just looking at some of the information feeds here to see if we can determine anything else. Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So the only one who's announcing this thing is Rutgers. Wide receiver Demiri Miller, undrafted free agent, signed. They say it's a free agent contract per Rivals Richie. The hell's Rivals Richie? So this guy seems to be a Rutgers supporter or something. Well, anyway, we'll see what's official, what isn't official. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. Yeah, I agree with you, PC. I agree with you. No, infrared, he wasn't a reach at all. He went right where he was supposed to go. He was the third best tight end in the draft. He's good, infrared. What are you talking about numbers? The kid's good. I think he had the most receptions and yards in LSU history, didn't he, for a tight end? What are you talking about? Mason Taylor's good, buddy. Yeah, Jet Press. Yeah, they're pretty good. So the one thing the Jet Press is really good about is these UDFAs. They do good at tracking them. But I don't think something's official until I see Aaron Wilson post it. Even if some guy uh, posts about something, Brady Cook, because it could be a try. It could be a tryout. It could be a. Let's see here. Yeah, Demir Miller. Jets added their third undrafted wide receiver, and plus, I'm over 90. Are we allowed to be over 90 people on the roster? The Jets added their third undrafted wide receiver, this time in the form of local Rutgers product Demir Miller. Miller's athletic profile and impressive college production. Oh, and then here's Caden Davis, kicker, Ole Miss, one of the most high-profile kickers. All right, so we brought a kicker in. That's interesting. But to me, this would, if these two signed contracts, that would put us at 95, unless I have something wrong, which is possible. But that's good. I like that. Fannin Jr. stats. Well, you can't just go on stats, and also Fannon's more of a pass catcher. We needed that's a flanker. That's an F position. We needed a Y, so it's different players. 14 names. Yeah, I had 12 as of last night, and then these two right here, Demir Miller and Caden Davis. Goldstein's, what are your thoughts on Cook? Well, Quinn Ewers got drafted by the Dolphins, so we couldn't have signed him. Cook, he's a camp arm. He's going to compete with Jordan Travis, and if he let the best man win, he could be QB3, perhaps, if he beats out Jordan Travis. Otherwise, it'll be Travis or Adrian Martinez. We still do have. So Cook, Travis, and Martinez will compete for QB3. So we'll see. Rutgers wide receiver. Yeah, chaos. Jeremy's here. That's true, but at the same time, there was anytime you reach in a draft, it's never good, and the fact that we still have a giant hole at defensive tackle is a problem because Jeremy, when we're watching the games with Green Bean, you and I are going to sit there, and it's going to be a very depressing watch when I keep saying they're going to run it up the middle, they're going to run it up the middle, they're going to run it up and then they run it up the middle, and the guy goes for 25 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards. Like we're going to, it's kind of hard to sit there and say, gee, if Frankie from Flatbush could have told you this was going to happen, you would have thought that the front office and the coaching staff could have figured out this was going to happen, you know? So that's going to be annoying. Draft, rookies, mini camp start. Yeah, I don't know when our mini camp starts. We have to release to 90 by the next camp date. I'm making this up. Yeah, you're just looking at stats, infrared. Stats don't tell the whole story. And I think that's a lot of yards for a tight end in LSU history. I mean, is LSU a good program or not? Doobie doobie doo. Jimmy Jets. I think the drafted players don't count until they sign their contracts. Against the 90 man? Oh, maybe that's true. I don't know. Well, we'll have to see, man, because I mean, the more people we could have in, the better, to take a look at for sure. So maybe there's some sort of contract shenanigans. Yeah, of course. That's the standard caveat, of course. I mean, one of these guys could turn out to be great. Infrared keeps going on about infrared. I'm telling you, calm down, buddy. 540. So you're just going off yards. What are you even talking about? Yards. I think you're taking this a little too hard, infrared, to be honest with you. You got to calm down, buddy. First of all, we need a guy who can block. We got one. Second of all, we're not going to be throwing the ball that much this year. Infrared, I got news for you. We're going to be running, ground and pound. Grind and pound. All right. So I guess we got a couple of these extra guys, so I'll add them to the list. But it'd be good to see maybe Caden Davis will be our kicker, and we could replace Zerline. Could be the way to go. Save some bucks. But then now you have a rookie kicker. You have no idea what he's going to do. Zerline's just as likely to rebound and have a good year after having a terrible year last year, obviously. And then the year before, because the year before that, he was solid as hell. I'll check back in 2027. Yeah, that's the problem. But the one thing I will say about this year, we're Fields maxing. We are Fields maxing. We're trying to see if Justin Fields is the guy. That's what this year is all about, it seems to me. I mean, we totally whiffed on defensive tackle. We didn't add enough talent there, and so edge rusher, linebacker, all these things. So it just seems to me that we're putting all of our eggs in the let's see if Justin Fields can become our franchise quarterback basket, and we went out and we got the right tackle, we got the Y tight end which we needed in Mason Taylor, so that was good, and we're going to see if he can do it. And if he can, then we're set there. We don't have to worry about the quarterbacks next year, and we just start building around Justin, and then hopefully with 1 year under his belt, maybe our paperboy general manager will learn how not to make mistakes and how to build a roster properly. All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to Coffee with Frankie. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to get our subscriptions way up. If you're already subscribed, tell people about the channel and force them by gunpoint to subscribe. Otherwise, give the video a thumbs up. I'm just kidding about the gunpoint. Or join the inner circle where you get exclusive resources that are very, very exciting, if I must say so myself. And with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining. Appreciate the chat as always.